Oga-Led organization. A lot of us will understand that context of Oga-Led organization, but as we go through the session, we will give some descriptions of what exactly we are referring to and how we are approaching this topic. To get started, I will lay a few ground rules that would ensure that this session is amazing for everyone, from me, the moderator, to the speakers, to the attendees. As much as possible, if you can, it would be nice to have your cameras on. It's not mandatory, but it gives that sense of togetherness so that we can see your faces, we can see your reactions. I can see the people that are visually disagreeing with what is going on. We want it to be a discussion. And so having cameras on helps with that, but it's obviously not mandated. If you have anything that you want to say, please use the raise hand feature. We have an abled co-moderator that would be keeping an eye out for all of the hand raises and all of the questions in the comments, which leads to the next ground rule. Please make use of the chat feature. If you want to add a little bit more to what you have heard, if you have questions, if you have comments, please feel free to post them in the chat. We would love as much as possible for all of us to try and stay present during this session. It enables more engagement. The more you listen and try to understand, the more informed either your questions or your comments will be. We also want to practice professional courtesy. So we will do our best to try and refrain from pointing out organizations or individuals or specific orgas that have told you specific things that you didn't agree with. That this is not the avenue for that, but please feel free to try and phrase your thoughts in a way that would protect people or organizations. If you're asking questions, please try and make them as specific as possible so that we can save a lot of time and the speakers or the public can better understand what it is that you're trying to pass across. As much as possible, try and limit your questions to one at a time so that a lot more people can ask questions. If you have asked one question and there is more time, you can raise your hand, ask another question, but as much as possible, try and make the questions short and simple so that everyone can have a say. There are a couple of note takers in the meeting, so there will be recordings being made. So just giving you a heads up that the session is being recorded. And finally, if you are not the one talking or asking a question, please remember to mute your microphone so that we can have better audio quality. These are just a few of the ground rules. We try our best to accommodate everyone in here, and we hope that this session would be as amazing as I know that it can be. So once again, thank you for coming here. As I mentioned in the beginning, my name is Paul Dakum. I am a lifelong data student. I have been learning about data for about 16 years now. I've done almost every type of data role, officially and unofficially. I enjoy virtually everything about data, and I believe that you can have any type of conversation from a point of view of data, which makes you almost knowledgeable in a lot of things. And all you're doing is just talking about it from the angle of data. So I love talking about data. I love reading about data. I listen to a lot of data podcasts. I enjoy all things data. Before we get into the main topic, I'll just spend 1 or 2 minutes talking about the RevStar community. RevStar is the community group organization, collection of amazing people that is powering this session. It's a space for people in sales, marketing, customer success, product growth, revenue, finance, data, where they come together to learn and grow and share ideas and share opportunities. So if you're looking for a place to learn and to connect and to grow and possibly even land a dream job, RevStar is the place. The link to join the community has been added to the chat. If you are not yet in the community, please go in there. One thing I'll tell you about RevStar is that I came in for the banter and I stayed for the knowledge. There's a lot of back and forth that goes in there, and a lot of people, it's kind of like a safe space. You come there and you realize that people are sharing their grievances, they're challenging the status quo, they are trying to figure out better ways to improve their skills, to improve their organizations, and it is fun. It's a good vibe. I really encourage everyone to join. For those that are in the community, welcome. I'm sure you had a nice conversation this morning about some of the things that Ogas have said that have just turned your head upside down. It was a nice intro to the session that we're going to be having today. So before we dive into the session itself, I would like to introduce our speakers for today. I will let them have the stage to introduce themselves in their own words, but we have three titans of industry in the house today, and they are going to be sharing their expertise, their knowledge, their experiences, how they have navigated the industry to get to where they are today. So I will pass the microphone to Kane Day, aka Kenny, to introduce herself and what she does. Take it away, Kenny.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you. It's good to be here. My name is Kenny Ejukorlem. So I have over a decade, nearing 2 decades of experience leveraging data to deliver impact across, and this spans across financial services, healthcare, and digital tech. Currently, I'm working as a business transformation analyst at AXA, where I design data-driven solutions to unlock cost savings and digital adoption. My career picked up in financial services, where I was translating insight into product development initiatives, refining underreported metrics, and supporting digital delivery teams. I was actually part of the group that pioneered data as a product back then in Diamond Bank. And it was there I mastered the art of blending strategic thinking with data-led execution. So I spent a lot of time in the bank before I transitioned from commercial banking into investment banking in 2019. There I spearheaded the digital democratization of investment and savings in Nigeria. The bank was one of Nigeria's leading investment banking firms, and as we all know in Nigeria, bank investment is largely accustomed to the HNIs, that's high net worth individuals. And when it comes to segmenting, when you segment to the retail bit, you can count the numbers there. So my focus was largely around data-driven strategies to democratize savings and investment. I transitioned from there also after a few years to a role as a chief marketing officer, where I headed customer experience, product development, and marketing at a healthcare management organization. And I would say I led a data-driven marketing team. So I brought data into what we do in marketing and customer experience and product development. And this resulted in digital healthcare products, smart ones. Beyond that, it's been an interesting journey. I transitioned to perform an interim role for an MD of a payment solutions company, but unfortunately I migrated to the UK, where I didn't spend a lot of time there, and I'm now in the UK, where I'm leading business transformation at AXA. So beyond my corporate work, I'm passionate about mentoring startups on monetizing data and advocating for inclusive innovation. I actually thrive in intersecting data design and delivery. So I'm that person that gets into the room and it's looking for the numbers around whatever kind of innovation you're bringing. I'm not quick at gut instincts. I want to see the numbers, how they blend into whatever it is that you're bringing on the table. So whether it's launching a mobile app or redesigning customer journeys, my focus is always marrying analytics with the empathy that you're using to create any scalable solutions. So I'm excited to be here. I hope I can share and also learn. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Whew. Did you see the amount of claps and balloons and thumbs up that were coming up in the chat? That's amazing. Anybody that wants to gain more knowledge from her, you can look her up on LinkedIn, or you can join the RevStar community. The amount of times I will plug join the RevStar community today, I'm just going to apologize for those that are already in there. I'm going to say it a bunch of times. These are the kinds of people that you will see there, and you will learn from them. And sometimes they are the ones directly hiring, and they post before it goes online. They post it in RevStar because they know that, you know, referrals are better people than strangers. So join RevStar community. All right, thank you very much, Kenny. I will pass the mic to Ola Igwe.
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here and happy to be sharing my Saturday with you all. So, brief introduction. My name is Igwe Ola. I am a business operations and lead at PHR. I started off my career. My background is in dentistry and dental surgery, and I transitioned into data because of my love for data. And I've also, with my role and years working experience, I've also seen how data affects business and revenue generation. That has sparked my interest in revenue operations. I've been working with mostly private startups, and my current state of employment is with PHR. Here I help the sales operations team, the customer success team be the more data-led procedure with each process, with each department, help the customer success team make sure that they are aligning and making decisions based on the data they collect and feedbacks from customer, the sales operation, understanding their pipeline, using data, knowing things like their sales rate and things like that, knowing how each place on the pipeline, where they are, and how to approach customers and things like that. So yes, I use data in everything I do, even if I have again pivoted a bit into the revenue operations part. Hi, Taya. Even have pivoted a bit into the revenue operations part, and again, even if you're going to work on revenue, you have to also depend on the data. So I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to share my knowledge with every one of you and with the other panelists. And thank you, Paul, for moderating this session.
Thank you very much, Ola. I'll also add that I did a little bit of a small project with Ola, and so I can say firsthand that she has dealt with Oga-Led organizations. I'll just leave that one as is. But thank you very much for lending your time and your expertise, Ola. And last but not the least, Olayinka, okay, take it away.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone who has spoken before me. I feel like you guys have raised the bar, so I'm going to just try to get up there. But yeah, my name is Olayinka, of course, like you already know, and they call me Data Bender. So I currently lead data management and governance at Nigeria LNG, which is a gas company. And on the side, I run Grow with Data, where I either help people figure out their tech careers or help startups figure out their data strategy and data management. So yeah, I would say that I always used to say that I landed into data because so my first degree was in chemical engineering, and I worked in field engineering for a bit before I somehow lost that job. And then afterwards, I basically took the next available job, which was a bank job. And then in the bank, I got posted into a data role. And it was up from there, of course. I supported the corporate banking team at the time at that bank with data analysis and all of that. And then afterwards, when I got tired of that anyway, I think they also call me, I don't know, there's another name people call me, I don't know how to structure it. But when I left the bank, I then worked in VC, I worked in an NGO, then I worked in a renewable energy company, and I finally landed in the gas company where I am. So it feels like I've gone like up and down and across a number of unpopular industries and even geographies. But yes, right now I feel like I do like a bit of and the role that I am now is very like goes into the life cycle of data from the beginning of how the data is created, making sure it's created right, and of course managing how data is used across the organization. So the idea of like being Oga-Led and not wanting to take data seriously, I've seen it firsthand, and I'm looking forward to the conversations today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I mean, if people notice, if you notice, she didn't say I call myself data bender. She said they call me data bender. So they imposed, you know, the title upon you. That is amazing. And if you have noticed, all of these people either started off in different careers, in different sectors and industries, and gravitated towards data. Shameless plug for people to come and become data people. It doesn't matter where you currently are. Data is there. You can use the data in the space that you are already in. Data people exist in every team. Where 2 or 3 are gathered, there is data. There must be Excel spreadsheets hiding somewhere. Even personal finance, you might not even need 2 or 3 people. I just saw on LinkedIn somebody was saying, oh, they created a dashboard that tracks personal finance. And so there's data all around us. And so I'm very glad that we have these 3 amazing people to talk to us about their experiences, and hopefully we can learn a thing or two from them. Okay, so data-driven decisions is kind of a tongue twister in an Oga-led organization. What exactly do we mean by an Oga-led organization? Every organization has an Oga, of course. There's a man in charge in every organization. But when we single out and say Oga-led organization, what are we referring to? Well, if you start objectively without putting any emotions or feelings into it, an Oga-led organization is an organization in which authority is centered, or decision-making authority is concentrated in either one person or a very small group of people. That is the simple way to put it. Now, that already doesn't mean it's necessarily a bad thing, but it doesn't mean that it is always a good thing. In these kinds of organizations, decision-making is central. There are people that dictate the direction in which the organization is going, down to the work in which individuals are going to do in that organization. Communication flows from the top to the bottom, and that is the direction of almost everything in that organization. It starts at the top and it trickles down to the bottom. The things that they say at the bottom in Gem Pop, that one stays there. It doesn't leave their own lunchtime discussions. Sometimes the Oga is going to join your small team meeting. In these kinds of organizations, the CEO himself will come and enter the meeting and be dictating, okay, how many people did you call? Did you follow up? How many this? How many that? This is what we are doing today. We are cutting marketing spend. We are adding billboards. We're doing this. Security, 2 of you are posted at the front. 1 is posted at the back. Every level of the organization, the Oga or his small group has a say in it. It allows for standardization of processes where, because there are very few people that are dictating, the same thing is ideally expected from everyone. What this means is that decision-making can be quick. This is in the scenario where an Oga-led organization is working well. Decision-making is quick. Even if you are going to fail, you will fail fast and you will learn from it, and you will restructure or revise. And there is clear accountability. You don't need to be finding whose fault is it. If it is Oga-led, Oga is responsible. So if you guys put a billboard that didn't bring people in, and that billboard is in the middle of town where everybody can see it, nobody else can be blamed except the Oga. And so it reduces the ambiguity of what people have to do. Now, if Oga is moving mad, if he has been on Twitter for horrible bosses and they have dragged him and everybody knows that this guy, be careful, that is when you now have the disadvantages where decisions need to be made, but Oga has not yet come in, so nothing can happen. Because Oga is not around, nothing can happen. Everybody is going to wait until he or she comes in. What this also means is that employees are not going to think outside the box. They're not going to try and be innovative. They're not going to flex their muscles. If they know something, they're not going to say it, because what does it matter? Oga is going to be the one that determines anything. So it reduces their morale. If Oga now is not even a good leader, that scatters everything from the get-go. And teams are not even incentivized or encouraged to work with each other, because at the end of the day, you don't want to spend man hours trying to figure things out, and Oga comes and changes everything. So nobody even wants to try. Before we even move on to any kind of questions, I want to open it up to our speakers just to get their own, all of this, this is just general information, but just to get their own point of view on Oga-led organizations. What has been your experience with it? Maybe even give one or two examples of situations that you have been in these kinds of organizations. Have you seen it work well somewhere versus have you seen it go really, really bad? I will put Ola on the spot to get us started with this, not because of anything, just, I randomly picked. It was a random picking that I just did, and I faced the first one on my screen, so I just picked it. So, Ola, over to you. What are your thoughts on this topic? When you heard that this is what we're going to be talking about today, what did you think?
I think I when I saw it, I was like, yeah, this is actually a great topic, because unlike what we usually see on LinkedIn and all these international organizations, most of the companies we have here in Nigeria that we get to interact with and work with are Oga-led. Like, we tend to, the decision making are mostly centralized and at the top of the business, and most of the companies I've worked in, because I worked in mostly startups, are like that. And what you described, saying that decisions are a lot faster, I could easily just walk into my boss's office and say, we need to pay for this now, and we need to work on this now, and within hours the decision has been made, because I don't need to go to 1 million steps. But yes, it also has some issues, because when you have decentralized decision making, you also have little to no influencers. So there's no way for you to, when you and your decision maker or your stakeholder do not agree on a strategy or a process or the data and forecasting you've done, you need an outside voice, an influencer, or another stakeholder who would also be your champion for that idea. And so at the time, it can always be a problem, but there are ways around it. There are ways to identify, and hopefully we'll get to talk about a lot of that here. Yeah.
Great, thank you very much. I'm glad that you mentioned the word champion, what you were saying, because it comes in very handy to have people on your side. Even if you have a one-man team as the Oga, he has those people that he likes, all those people that they move around, those is yes men, that they are moving around and agreeing with him, and these are the cool guys of the company because Oga likes them. You need to find a way to get those people on your side, because if they have his ear and you have their ear, then what it is that you're trying to pass across will eventually get to him. Kenny, what do you have to say on all of this?
I think you guys have pretty much described them, Oga-led companies. I think one thing that stands out for me when I join an organization, and helps me identify that, oh my God, this is Oga-Led companies, when data is used to justify decisions that have already been made. So you're calling data after Oga has said, let's do this, and you're just doing it to tick the box. You just, so it's part of the documentation that goes with the project. I think that's just one thing that stands out to me, and I'm like, oh my God. Because data should inform whatever initiative or project you're doing, but when it's coming at the end, then you just know that.
Yeah, I don't want to go into how much I agree with what it is that you're saying, but just I agree with everything that you said, which led me to the very first question that I had. But I'll allow Yinka to go if you have anything to add to what has been said.
Yeah, before I go to what I wanted to add, there's a quote to support what Kenny was talking about. He says, if you torture the data, it will confess to anything. So every time you have your bias, you want data to support it, you will find it. You just need to torture it properly. But I think on the idea of what an Oga-Led organization means, sometimes it's easy for us to think Oga-Led and you just think, oh, the MD is the Oga and stuff like that. But in some situation, it's not necessarily the MD. There was an organization I worked where it was in some rural area, and the owners of the company were not from that area, right? They were like foreigners. And they had this mid-management guy who was a local. And the business had to do with having like network of marketers and agents and all of that. And because the guy is a local, the guy just felt like, I know my people. And the rest of the management also believe him. They trust him that he knows the people. So whenever a strategic decision needed to be taken, they would just ask him, what should we do? Nobody is looking at the data. They're just like, guy, you're the one who knows these people. What should we do? And whatever he says is what is going to be done. And sometimes, of course, sometimes it worked, and other times, especially when maybe it's a behavioral issue. But when it's something that you should have used data for, you just try and then you come out, oh, it didn't work, okay, let's try this other one. And we just keep trying. Of course, all of that before I joined the company, and then I started trying to help them use data instead of just trusting somebody's instincts.
Yeah, thank you so much for adding that, because it's not just the CEO. Sometimes it's the head of finance or marketing or sales that is the Oga-Led that we are talking about. So it is either that one person or the group of people. So thank you very much. One thing that I would want to also add is, as everyone was talking, I was wondering, I hope people are not just assuming that all of what you are saying is just for data practitioners and data analysts and data scientists. What we are discussing in this session, yes, is for data professionals, but it is also for professional data consumers. These are people that they are not the ones creating the pipelines, they're not the ones creating the dashboard, they're not the ones creating the data collection tools, but they are professional data consumers. When you hear them talking about data, you would think that they are the data professionals because of how in tune they are with it. They are criticizing the data, they are asking it questions, not torturing it, but just asking it gently, a few questions about what is going on. They interface with data people a lot. They are always curious about what does our population say? What are our users saying? What complaints are coming in from customer service? What about the telesales team? What are they talking about? How are they talking about it? Can we see data? Can we actually put processes in place that would give us an insight into what is going on? These are people that are professional data consumers. They too have that burden of trying to convince the Oga-Leds that informed decisions should be made with the big inputs of data. Again, it's not as if we're saying only do what the data says, but use the data to inform the decision before it is made. So I just wanted to add that little point there. So the very first question that I have, and if anyone has any questions at all in and around this space, please feel free to use the chat feature, and we will get to your question as soon as we can. So the very first thing, Kenny mentioned a little bit about this, and I want to use that as a foray into the first question. What are the telltale signs that you have seen that an organization is Oga-led? What are the symptoms, the little things, the nuances that you see in and around the organization that lets you know these guys, there's one person or three people that are pulling all of the levers in this organization? I will start with you, Yinka, just to get your experience, data bender. I mean, I'm sure you have experience.
Okay, so as a data analyst, I usually tell people, especially in a small company, you've built this fantastic Power BI report. And nobody is coming to you to say, oh, these reports, can we also have an additional page that shows, we're even looking at the, in Power BI, you can like check how many people are viewing the report, how many people are interacting with the report. Nobody's interacting with the report. And I started here because people tend to sometimes, especially when you're a beginner in data, when you shift the project and the project has gone live, you are angry when people are coming to you for enhancements. And every time I go live with a report, I tell people the only way I know that people are using it is if they are asking for enhancements. Because people, many times, sometimes, or not many times, sometimes business users don't know what they want in a report until when you have built that report and they have seen it. They'll not start saying, oh, can we also? Oh, can we also? But I'm happy for you to say, can we also? Because it means that you're using it. If you're not using it, you're not going to be asking for enhancement. So that's just the first step. So, okay, now they're using the report. Okay, the next step is now checking, okay, what are they doing with it? Are they just looking at it for fancy? Are they just, but that's usually a very good sign that normally people will see it as a negative thing because they are stressing you to redo something that you've done. But I take it as a positive sign to say, okay, they're using my report. That's why they're asking me to enhance it. So I will just stop at that so that the others can speak to other signs.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that's the yin and the yang of it. They are bringing you more work, but it's showing that the work that you're doing, people are actually using it. You don't want to spend 5 business days on a dashboard and they used it on day 1 and that's the end of it. But they are the ones that have been saying, where's the dashboard? We want to see it. Ola, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, so from what she said is actually very important, because if I have created so many dashboards, and I have created I've created so many dashboards that have been abandoned, and you go back and meet the team, you don't like it, or is there something here that is not being communicated? And it's very common, again, yes, in Oga-led organizations. First, they say they don't need it, and they tell you they already have a system of recording or finding out what is going on. And then you create the dashboard and they abandon it. And then you go back to them and say, okay, come, what do you want to see? And then when they start using it, they start bugging you. Oh, can we make this chart look like this, and expand and find out if the customer will wake up 10 a.m. tomorrow morning? But either ways, it's help you find it impossible. But it's still good because it means that they are curious enough, and that will help you shape their thinking of data. Because being a data-driven business is not just doesn't just start or end with the data professional, the data bender, the data analyst. It starts and continues with everybody in the company. Everybody has to first think of the data before thinking of their buyers or their instincts. So to put that in place, it means that everybody has to be data literate in one way or the other. How the data is collected, how the data is put out, how the data is saved. So things like that is something that you expect to encounter in a Oga-led environment. And I think, again, we've been saying it as if it's sometimes it might seem like being an Oga-led organization might not be a good thing, but it's great in the sense that decisions are made faster. And these problems when you have that you want to discuss about data and data-driven decisions, you can easily just walk into the office of whoever is the stakeholder that you need to make such changes to. I have this communication without so much bureaucracy and office speak blocking your conversation. So yeah, that's the good thing for me.
Thank you very much. Very, very well said. Kenny, anything from you on this?
So I think so I did mention about the using data at the end of the decisions, but for a telltale sign, if anyone wants to pick, I think it's the KPIs. Are they measurable or are they just gut instincts? What kind of KPIs are driving the entire organization? Even the CEO, does he have a KPI that is measurable and is cascaded down to as little as the smallest executive in the firm? The trainees, how are their KPIs aligned and are they all measurable? I think when you start to see intelligent KPIs that return metrics that are, well, I call it dependable and contributing closely to value across the firm, and it's very objective, it's not subjective, then you start to understand that, okay, this is not just an Oga-Led organization. So I have worked on projects in the bank then, and kudos to Uzomadozie in Diamond Bank back then, where we had to align the entire bank's KPIs, starting from the executives up to the CEO, from the CEO cascaded down to the excos, down to the heads of departments, down to all the members. And we had to put metrics, weights that are equated to every single person's own. And then we identified all the key areas that we wanted to be known for and apportioned scores to them, built models. You know, that's when we start to say, okay, this is not just Oga-Led. I mean, I can't go deeply into all this project. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I think we are off to an amazing start. I'm loving the conversations that we're having. These are the kinds of conversations that you will find in the RevStar community. RevStar, a place for amazing people. Okay. Oh, I think a hand went up. I heard the sound. Did someone raise their hand? Well, yeah, if you have any questions, any comments, any experiences that either align or differ with what people have spoken about today, please feel free to put it in the stop. Feel free to put it in the chat or raise your hand. Okay. The next question I have is, so you have found yourself in an Oga-Led organization. You have created a report that is showing that method B is going to fail if we implement it. Method A is perfect. There's very little risk involved and the data is showing. And Oga comes in and he says, you know what, let's go with that method B. And I'm like, but the data says, so trust me, I know what I'm doing. I've been doing this for 10 years. And you are just coming, when did you start doing this work? That you are coming to tell me this is my bread and butter. What do you do? What happens next? Oga has said, we're not doing this thing. Your data is showing a nosedive in your revenue, that if you continue this thing, nothing is showing that revenue is going to pick up. Now, you as a data person, you're using data. You're not using Oga's experience. Oga is using his experience. In that kind of scenario, what do you do? I will pose that question first to Kenny.
So that's a very interesting question, because I do have a scenario that has happened to you at the bank. So you should, in the context of reporting and analysis, you should actually propose an A and B testing, A and B testing and then you take your Oga scenario and you take yours, and then you run the test. But sometimes I'm not even that patient, so they go live, but if I had to give a strategic advice, and that's where data comes into play. Communicating your findings should not just be around just the numbers. You should tell a story. So you should tell a story that drives performance and link it to value that you're bringing on the table. I think that's where the fine line between data analysis and data strategy. So you would see the analysis as it is, but you now need to be able to pick the insight from that and take it into a strategic plan that returns value to. There's no MD or CEO that doesn't want an increase in profitability, but you need to be able to tell those stories. So proposing is an A and B testing tends to work for me. And I'll give an example. When we wanted to launch a digital health product, so we were trying to run some new products into the market. And I had my CEO saying, oh, increase my prices to this and that. Yeah, I don't want to hear it, and everyone is like, we'll lose customers instead of getting more. And she's like, what is this? Everyone is increasing their prices. Who are the everyone that are increasing their pricing? So we had to do the market research. We had to conduct feedback surveys. We had to do some analysis and even segmentation. So you'll be shocked to see that. So you could increase the prices, yet, and some people in particular geographical region would still take it. But that doesn't mean it also applies to people in the other areas. So by the time we were done with all this, then we did so most times I always say you should have your closed user group for testing of new products and development. So closed user groups across different geographical regions, and then you roll out and see what it is, understudy it for a few months, and then you can get your results. I think one of the best things about data is just, it doesn't lie. It will give you what it is, plain, simple. It's now left for you to decide. Yeah, and I've not seen any CEO that sees it lying there, especially when it returns to profitability that doesn't go on the data side. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Very well said. I love the fact that you mentioned A/B testing and segmentation. These are ways to quickly just test. Okay, there are two options. Let us quickly test them and see which one works, and then we will go with them. Yinka, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, before Yinka goes, right? So Dio had said something. Dio had his hand raised, and now he has said that I have seen situations where Oga was right when the analysis of the data. Wait, what right? When the okay, I don't understand that English. But
yeah, no. So what he's saying is that there are times when the analysis wasn't done well, and then it's proven that Oga was right, and you need to see some of these Ogas when their own intuition and gut feeling finally pays off. They already own the place, so whether we walk like they own the place when they enter that office. But yes, Dio, you are right. There can be those instances where systems may not be perfect. Analysis can easily. In fact, let me flip it and say it was the Oga's fault that he rushed the analyst to create a report, and the analyst didn't have time to QA their work. That's why the analysis was not done right. I told you, we data people, we defend ourselves. All right, Yinka. Okay, Dio wants to add. Dio, please go ahead.
So sometimes I disagree, that it might also be even the ability of the data person. I know there are data people on the call, but the ability of the data people to actually analyze the data properly. Sometimes to properly understand data, you need context of other things that might not be things that you are great at, right? As a data person, right? So when you find yourself, having to analyze that kind of data, there's a good chance that you would analyze the data in a wrong way. I'll give you a perfect example of something that I read today. So there was a study done in America, right, where they were trying to determine if the portion of the food you eat determines if you live long, right? So they gave, over a 20-year period, they gave monkeys, some of them overfed, some of them moderately fed, right? And so there were two separate studies, one in Baltimore and one in, I think, Oklahoma, another city, right? One gave out results that, yes, less food impacts how long you live. The other came out and basically was opposite. Like the analysis was properly done, like all of these things was done, right? But when they then dug into the data better, they realized that it was the quality of food, right? Right. So we've seen scenarios like this, and this was just an example of something I read today, right? Where, the person analyzing the data is maybe not a scientist, right? And it did not have to, it does not understand nutritional science, right? And have to dig deep into what type of food, what amount of carbohydrates was this person getting a week, and things like that, right? And then the decision maker gets this data and now has to make a decision based on this data and the analysis of this data that is sort of faulty. And again, as a data person, what do you do in scenarios like that?
Okay, wonderful. I have a reporter, but I see Ola has raised her hand because she's going to come and defend our honor. Please go ahead.
Okay, so hi, Daya. Nice to hear from you after a long time. Okay, so it's normal to see people use data in the wrong way. Like Yinka said, you can touch your data to tell what you want it to tell you. And then the issue of context, that's why there's what we call domain knowledge. You have to have domain knowledge to work on specific data. If you're working with health data, the domain knowledge in health data is there. If you're working in finance, and that's why it's not just generic data analyst. Even when I started working and learning about sales operation and the data behind sales operation, I had to go take a course on revenue operations with HubSpot, and to better my knowledge on what is the pipeline, what's the CRMs, know the context behind selling B2B before even going to use the data. So at the end of the day, it is still the Oga's fault for not having a data personnel that has the domain knowledge to interpret the data. And the Oga is also supposed to help with that context. Just saying.
Titans of industry. What did I tell you? These are titans of industry that we have. Since you didn't even take 2 seconds to think about the response, as he was talking, she knew the answer. And that's exactly what I was going to say. Domain knowledge is key. The data person may not have domain knowledge, but you as the Oga, you have to make sure somebody with domain knowledge is there. And we're not saying data has all of the answers, but it's supposed to help you get to the right answer. Yinka, do you have any last thoughts on this?
Yeah, quickly, just I had a point when Kenny was speaking about how you can what was the point? How you can ensure that they're using data. I missed my train of thought, but what I wanted to say is actually similar to what she said about KPIs, right? If you have an Oga that is trying to not use data, or the company is trying to not use data, sometimes it's because the KPIs are not properly aligned. So I'll tell you what I mean. You have a head of sales that's how much cash comes into the company is not really in his KPI. When you are making a decision that is going to influence how much cash is coming into the company, he's happy to use gut feelings to make the decision, because even if it goes bad, it's not his business. So making sure that KPIs are aligned is when people will now start saying that if this thing the data said is correct, it's going to affect me. So like she just said before, like aligning KPIs properly is the first step to being data driven. And I can talk more about it later. I think there's a question that was similar. And then the thing about domain knowledge, I think Dio is just like, it's normal that there are people who are not good at their job. So if you have somebody who is not good at their job, they will give you wrong thing. And like you just also said, after you get what the data says, you need to add context to it. When I worked in banking, because I was a data analyst and I was not business facing, every time I saw something, oh, deposits have dropped, I learned that it's not every time that our deposits are down is a bad thing. I would then go and speak to the relationship managers. But why did our deposit drop, especially on this key customer? I was managing corporate banking. So we had like customers that them taking money can shake the entire bank's balance sheet. So I'll go and ask what happened, and they'll tell me, oh, the guy was asking for too much interest rate, so we had to let his money go. So yes, we were trying to save revenue, so we let go of deposits because we can make revenue elsewhere. So it's not every time that something that looks bad on data is bad when you add business context to it. So that business context is always important. If the data person doesn't have it, they need to find somebody who has it to collaborate with, so that, of course, they're making rounded decisions, because you're not using the data like a robot. You're using it with context.
Very well said. Very, very well said. Thank you very much. I'm loving what we have done so far. It's just been barely an hour and it feels like it has been 20 minutes only. So thank you very much for all of the engagements, all of the likes and the thumbs up, and all of the questions. A few excerpts from the chat. Somebody said Oga-Led organization, they sweet if the Oga likes to use data and listens to you. implementation ASAP. And that's exactly what Ola was saying. You can walk into the Oga's office and tell him something and he's on board almost immediately and wants to implement. Another person said, Chakam, nobody say when he fail, you go come call me. He said, I will prepare I told you so reports. I've done that. Like, look, it's common practice in the data space to prepare I told you so report. You will not call it that, but that's what it is. Okay, so and there's a
It's
question.
called
Okay,
after
go ahead,
action
please.
review.
After action
Called
review.
after action
Thank you.
review.
Exactly. So there's a question in the chat that says, what about situation where we do not have the luxury of time to start doing A/B testing or market testing? I will leave that open to any of our speakers. What happens in that scenario where you cannot do that? Ola, please go ahead.
I actually wanted to answer that after Kenny was done. I lost my train of thought there. But yes, for someone who has worked in a startup and not a big corporation that has the resources to do an A and B testing, sometimes you are stuck with the resources to just make one decision, and that is to pick one of the methods. So if you are a data analyst and you're working in that kind of setting, as an Oga-Led organization, you have your data ready, you've explained, oh, this is what is going to happen, A or B. First thing, what she said about data storytelling is very important. As data analysts, sometimes we forget that not everybody speaks our language. So we have to speak it in the language that the Oga will understand. For me, it's the numbers, but for Oga, it's the revenue. How much is entering the company? Can I pay salaries from this? Would this be a new product that will bring us so much money, or whatever this analytics you're trying to put forward to? So yes, speak the language of the stakeholder you're trying to sell this information to. Another thing is the influencers and champions I spoke about before. There are people most times, yes, decisions are centralized, but you have those key influencers and champions of your Oga, the people that always tell your Oga, yes, you should do this, people that he listens to. Try and also sell that, sell your analytics and your forecasting to those people. They'll also be on board and support you in your decision. And then finally, also look out for the people that this particular project that you have proposed will affect. This data strategy that you want to put forward, these people that it will affect, help them buy into it. If it is the customer success team that this particular project will affect, for example, for a while, the customer success team didn't have a place where they recorded their KPIs, and some went against it because, well, if I don't record how many calls I take in a day, nobody can measure it, nobody can say I'm underperforming. Some were good about it because it meant that they can also request for better products and present to the product team that, oh, we have too many bugs. This is how many bugs we recorded this month. And so my job as a data person was to go in and say, okay, I know all of you are conflicted about taking your time to record. Is time consuming, and I have to put down that this person called, this company called. I started selling them on the idea of what this could do for them. You can identify customers quickly that have been having issues using your product and avoid churn. You can be proactive in identifying bugs. You can be proactive in the feedback that you're giving and helping the product team develop products that your customers actually want. And so when you have the buy-in of the people who are going to be using this data strategy, it's not hard for you to also have the main stakeholder who's going to pay for the product that they will use to get the buy-in. So things like that could help you if you are not in a very big organization where you can test both, or when you don't have so much time.
Wonderful. The person that asked the question, I hope that was clear. It's very clear to me. But again, like she said, not everybody speaks our language. So if it is not clear, please let us know. But very, very well said. Kenny?
Okay. I just wanted to add that so in project management, that's what we call the risk register. When you're doing a discovery, at the discovery phase of projects, you would have had to go through what it takes to deliver and all that. I would introduce risk management at that point. And case in hand, it has happened to me before, where I had my CEO contesting with a vendor. In this case, it was vendor. And what is data? Data doesn't have to be numbers. Data can be information that you have scraped from the internet about a particular vendor, what they've done. It could be feedback, it could be reviews. Amazon, before you buy anything on Amazon, you're going to do reviews to check. That is data. And we had that information to tell our CEO that with this vendor you want to go with, doesn't have much of props in terms of delivering this value. But we all know how valid organizations are. They might have come recommended, and so what we did was to just put down with risk management a detailed risk register, identifying all the areas that we thought were going to cause us harm if we went ahead with this, and we archived it, put it on the shelf, and wait. As Ola had said, the reports, that's our I told you so reports will come eventually, but you now attach this risk register to it in the future. So sometimes, to be realistic, you can't win those arguments. So you just wait. Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah, that is very well said. I'm going to say that a lot today. I'm realizing that is very well said because you guys are fantastic. Sometimes all you can do is just tell them, I told you so. Look, next time, listen to me because I showed you this. But as data people, you will have to make sure that you come correct too. Don't go and disgrace the rest of us. And before you know it, nobody is paying attention to us. That is wonderful. So now all of you have said a lot of these things, giving a lot of advice, especially in and around finding champions. And I want to dig into that just a little bit. If there's a data person in this session now, and he's finding champions, what do I just walk up to them and then just ask them, help me talk to Oga about this thing? What are the strategies? What are the techniques? How do you get them on your side? How do you find people? It's kind of as if you're trying to shift the culture around data in your organization. But how do you go about doing it? If somebody in this chat wants to, you know what, tomorrow or on Monday as I go to the office, in fact, let's not wait till tomorrow. Tomorrow is Sunday, we'll not wait till Monday. I want to start trying to change the perception around data in my organization. What should they do? How can they do it? After all, they are one, maybe two in big organizations, 3 or 5 of them out of possibly hundreds. What exactly can they do in order to try and shift that mindset, try and get more people on their side? I will start with you, Yinka.
Thank you. I think Olaigwe has spoken a bit on finding champions, but I will just dive deeper into it. Every time you're trying to push a decision based on data, there is somebody who is going to be the biggest beneficiary of that decision. The person might not see it in the immediate. That's why what Kenny said about aligning KPIs and also what Ola said about like speaking it in their own language is important. So you need to go and meet that person and show them how this is going to be a benefit to them, right? And also, I also want to say just importantly that also sometimes confronting it head on may not be the solution. Sometimes you need to be strategic about it. And before I leave finding the person who it pains the most, I would talk about a lesson I learned in sales. Because selling the idea of being data driven is actually sales. You're trying to get someone on your side, right? I learned in sales that when you're selling something, you need to, if I want to sell something, for example, to Ola, I need to find out what keeps her awake at night. If I find out what keeps her awake at night, and I tell her how my product is going to solve that problem, there's no way she's not going to buy that product. I don't have to tell her that the product is the cheapest or the product is, I just need to tell her about her problem, right? So sometimes understanding our business users a lot would help us to sell why they need to be data driven to them. And also, like I said, sometimes you don't have to like be confrontational about it. When I was working in corporate banking, I remember that many of the meetings that I sat in, I didn't necessarily need to be there, but I was just there looking for how I can use data to solve a problem that people don't necessarily see as a data problem. So they are talking about, oh, all our customers are going to Access Bank, and then maybe they're asking their friends in Access Bank, because why not just pick up Access Bank's whatever report is on the internet? Do so. What is Access Bank doing differently that we're not doing? So there are problems like people don't see as a data problem. So basically, just like I said, just be a problem solver. Like, look for where people have problem and help people to see how data is going to be the solution to that problem. There was a time in my current organization where we're trying to automate reporting for a certain group, and because it's a very big company with lots of complex hierarchies and stuff, there was a lot of people that we had to bring together for this report to work, and it was difficult getting all those people. But there was one guy who, in that team, he was responsible for doing the manual reporting. So I knew that if we automate this report, this guy is going to be happy. So I picked him as my champion. And then he knew how to talk to his other guys to get them to work with me to get the report out. But because I identified him as the person who is not sleeping well at night because he has to manually do those reports. So again, it's just find, they call it the final beneficiary. Find the final beneficiary and help them to see why listening to this data is going to solve your problem, assuming that their KPIs were already properly aligned. So that's really the hack that has worked for me and continues to work. Thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah, be a problem solver. Come with solutions. Find the people and butter them up with the answers that you have, because they have burning needs. And somebody in the chat said, come with food for 3 in the beginning. You know, it's funny, but, you know, it speaks to being friendly, being open, you know, be an approachable person that people kind of like. It's, you know, it's not a science per se, but it goes a long way to being approachable. Any thoughts from you, Kenny?
I think she said it all.
Yeah.
It's basically what she has said. Yeah. We just try to position data as the decision enabler, not the challenger. So validate their points instead of challenging their points. So work with their assumptions to bring out the results. You know, and I think you always get that room. So you find those guys that find joy in you doing that. You know, identify those key stakeholders that those results are going to impact directly. And I think you'll be able to pick your champions already.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It will shock you guys to realize that we are already almost running out of time. That is how quick this time has already gone. And that is how much fun I think personally that this session is going. So there's a follow-up question in the chat from Dio that now that we have established domain expertise, what should I look for when hiring a data analyst, given it might be difficult to find someone with industry expertise? So what, now that we have said, you know what, domain knowledge is a real thing, how should people, and maybe you guys can use this opportunity to speak to the ogas out there that are now feel like they are between a rock and a hard place. They are telling them, no, we don't want to hear your gut feeling. But then the data person doesn't know anything about the space that they are operating. So what should employers and hiring people look out for when they are trying to balance between expertise and domain knowledge? I'll pose that to you, Ola.
Okay. I think I'm a living example of someone who has jumped through different areas. I have jumped through real estate, I've jumped through crypto, healthcare, and now HR tech. So again, domain knowledge is something that you can learn. If you are hiring for someone who is a data analyst, sometimes it's hard to find somebody who has all the data skills and knows all the tools that you need, and then also find the person that has the context of the industry that you want them to operate in. Yes, that's the perfect candidate, but sometimes you might not find that person that totally has that knowledge, but you also need to find someone who is adaptable, someone who can learn about these industries and their context, and don't isolate them. when you bring them into the organization, allow them work directly with the teams that you want them to analyze for. So allow them understand the processes of the sales team, the business cases, and eventually you want them to analyze. And so that when they are bringing out the numbers to you, you also have some context and they also have some context, and then you know that you are moving you are both on the same like the same vision. You guys are seeing the same thing that you want as an outcome. Again, I would say I'll use myself as an example. When I joined Paid HR, I was just a data analyst who had, again, healthcare background and had mostly real estate and crypto knowledge. I didn't have so much knowledge on the HR tech space, come to talk of B2B. And so it required me sitting down with our sales team and just asking them, so when you call a customer, do you record it? And they're like, no. I'm like, that feels like data. Like, I'm not sure that's what is supposed to be done. So I go online, I started reading about these things. I started reading that, you should know the average time it takes for your lead or contact that you're communicating with to move from one stage of the pipeline to the next stage of the pipeline. You should know the average time it takes for you to close a deal, so you know if you're wasting your time on a particular deal. The type of emails you send depending on industries. And so all of that influenced me, because I didn't know that in B2B, you should track the amount of time it takes to close a deal. I didn't know all of this before I joined. So you have to, soft skills of the data analysis as important as the hard skills you're hiring for. Is this person a good communicator? Is this person adaptable? Is this person also curious and ready to learn? So even if they don't fill in the gap of you wanting them to have that domain knowledge for the industry you're hiring for, they should be able to learn about that industry, and you as the hiring manager or the Oga should be able to create an enabling environment for them to mingle with the business, understand the business and the context, and just basically assimilate easily.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Before I pose the question to you, Yinka, I want to add a sub question to it, which is a follow-on that, this is, we're now talking about how people should hire for data people. But then the inverse is what skills should data people have? And what I'm even interested in is not the SQLs and the Pythons and the Tableaus and the metabases, but what are the the under G, the low-key skills that are not very talked about, that in your experience, it helps data people a lot when they get, thank you, Tayo, soft skills. I was just dancing around the whole thing. What are those soft skills that you think are very important for data people, so that they will present themselves as people that these orgas will hire?
Thank you. Thank you all for that sub question. So I think I will start by saying that I personally, as a person, I think that domain knowledge is bullshit. And I don't mean bullshit in the entire sense of it, but I think it's overhyped. And I will tell you what I mean. Well, after I worked in banking, they employed me to come and work in VC. I don't know. I didn't know what they do in VC. I thought it was finance, so it's similar. The next month, they put me on a panel to be judging startups, whether we should give them money or not. And let's just say I survived, right? And I did survive. I didn't just survive. I did amazingly well, if I dare say so myself, right? I think that, and I'm happy that you just also asked the question of soft skills. I think that people hype too much. Oh, I have experience in iGaming. Oh, by the way, I've been employed by an iGaming company too before. I have experience in iGaming. I have experience in the manufacturing. I have experience in whatnot. And every time I've jumped into a role in a new company, yes, I see it's good to understand the industry, but I feel like that's something I could pick up in 2 weeks. So the point I'm making is just hire a problem solver, right? I don't know how you're going to test that the guy is a problem solver, but just hire a problem solver. A problem solver would know how to listen to the customer. The customer is going to tell you their problem in revenue terms, or they're not going to tell you, put a slicer here, put a pie chart here. Now, your job as the data person is to convert that business problem that you have been told into a technical problem, and then use your technical skills to solve it. So communication skills, listening skills, understanding skills, but most importantly, problem solving is just like what I said before, is sitting in a meeting, hearing a problem, and thinking of how you can use your own skills or your skills plus some research to solve it. That is a skill that every employee that you are employing needs to have. All the other things, communication, storytelling, presentation skills, because of course, after you do your report, just like Eddie said, you need to explain it to business users in their own language and make them see how it adds value to them. But anyway, assuming that we have agreed on this call that Dio is an Oga, a very true hack that I've also seen that works a lot is when you are employing a data analyst, especially, as much as possible, don't employ your data analyst to sit in IT. And this is from my personal experience. On some occasions where I've worked with commercial teams, I've been employed as a member of the commercial team, and they will call it business intelligence analyst or whatever titles they call it, but I'm analyzing data for the commercial team. And when I'm in those roles, I add more value because I'm in their meetings, I understand their problems better, and I'm able to add more value to them. But when I'm a data analyst and I'm sitting in IT, I'm supporting commercial, I'm supporting supply chain, it takes more time for me to understand when they are describing their problem because I'm not part of their team. So as much as possible, especially if the data analyst is going to serve, maybe 80% of their work is going to be in this department, let them sit in that department. Let them be an employee of that department, not an employee of IT. I mean, in some organizations, we then have like business partnering and things like that. But again, it's not the ideal situation. That's just my opinion from my experience. Back to the rest of you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So you shook small table there, and I want to give the other two speakers the chance to comment on that. Did she explain herself well such that you're like, okay, I see where you're coming from? Or do you say, no, domain knowledge is what I said. Point that gun at me, I'm going to still say it. Kenny, do you want to go first? Or I see, Ola, you already unmuted your mic, like you were ready to go. So please go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, I maybe didn't understand me when I said it. Yes, domain knowledge is quite important, but like I said, I didn't have all this domain knowledge going into all these industries. I went there and I was lucky enough to join organizations that immersed me in learning about the business. So like she said, they didn't throw me to the IT or the technical part. They allowed me to understand how the business works from the beginning, from the user journey to the end point, and then understand how the business gets in their revenue. And knowing how the business work also helped me understand their gaps and their problems, and also the context to it. And bringing me into the teams that you want me to analyze for, it helped me to understand again the domain of it, and also being an adaptable and inquisitive person. So knowing that I was going into B2B, that was my first experience with B2B in my life. It meant that I had to learn about this thing. So going back, taking courses, understanding those contexts, coming back to the sales team and understanding, okay, are they doing it according to industry standard, or it is not according to industry standard, and just learning and getting better at the way. At the end of the day, nobody knows the business better than the Oga. I like to say that you might have an idea of what the business should look like, but the true vision of that business is projected by the Oga, the person who owns the business. And it's the data analyst flourishing at the role is still dependent on the person, that's the CEO, the MD, or whoever is hiring for that data personnel, being immersed in the business, like you said, immersed in the commercials, immersed in the business problems, and being able to solve for the business problems. Another thing is, as a data analyst, like I said, the language of which you are telling your data story is very important. So if you're hiring a data analyst, you are not hiring somebody that you just tell, oh, go and tell me the average of this, or go and tell me. The data analyst should understand the importance of that average. If you want to know, for example, I always do sales operation. Say you want to know your average sales cycle, because of course you want to communicate it to your investors. I want to see if your average sales cycle meets industry standards. You should be able to communicate that to your data analyst, and your data analyst should actually understand it and be able to communicate that freely to other members of the team. They should not just show up and say, so your average sales cycle is 50 days, and then nobody understands, okay, so what does 50 days does for me? What's the industry standard? Are we doing it this way? Are we doing it that way? So all those soft skills, adaptability, problem solving, all of it can all come in place. The ideal candidate, again, is the person having the domain knowledge, but I assure you that that's a unicorn. It's really hard to find. But if you don't find them, you can train them, you can make them be what you need.
Wonderful, thank you. I would argue that we have at least 3 unicorns in this session alone, but that's it just for another day. Kenny, do you have any final thoughts before we start trying to wrap this session up?
Okay, I think they both said most of the soft skills of a data analyst. One thing I look out for when I'm interviewing for a data analyst is the analytical skill, and that analytical skill is not just there. You know, they say they're data analysts, but actually, your primary job is to be analytical every single day of your life that you walk into. So from the minute the security man who used to greet you in a particular way doesn't greet you the same way, your brain should be ticking to say what's going on. So a key skill of a data analyst is that analytical mindset. From the minute the problem is put on the table, you are asking the whys. Why do we have this? Why do we have it? Informs your root cause analysis that takes you. So when you're doing root cause analysis, you're using mind maps and you're thinking and asking the right questions. And it would be easy to get this kind of things in interviews, because when you pose those questions to them, the way they approach it, so they are even analytical in the way they approach it. A data-driven person, one who's purely analytical, cannot do anything without thinking of it in an analytical form. When you're getting someone who's just trying to get into it, you would also identify the level. There are levels to it, yeah, but it now depends on the role. I mean, in terms of the level of the data analysis you want to get. But if you're looking to maximize your recruitment, again, just look out for how analytical that person is. So in an interview session, you're asking questions. Are they, even if you're not doing the presentation types of interview, you tell them to bring a presentation, because people have enough time to go and edit PowerPoints. Thanks to AI these days, people come back with fabulous presentations. We have not done anything about it. But in the conversations, how analytical are they in talking to you? Yeah, so I think that's it.
Great, thank you so much. You know, if I should wear my speaker hat for 2 minutes, I boiled it down to 3 key things that would give you an edge. You know, the first one is curiosity, like what you have just mentioned. You have to be curious. Ask the why. If 2 numbers that are supposed to align don't align, and they differ just by 1, you want, why is it that they are not the same? This dashboard says we have 15 sales as at noon. This dashboard says we have 16. It's 1, you know, but your curiosity should keep. Why is it a sync issue? At least be able to explain it. But then, as you are asking these questions, your creativity should also peak. What are different ways in which I can look at this same thing? Can I look at it? Okay, sales is the one that brought the question, but let me look at it from finance. Let me look at it from marketing. Let me look at it from product, and be creative in the way that you approach the problems, and then finally be able to communicate what it is. You can only get these things by practice. You have to practice doing these things. One thing that I try to do is, in different scenarios, even in social settings, I try to look at every gist that is coming my way from a data point of view. And the more I do it, the more I'm able to bring up examples in serious scenarios, business scenarios, that people be like, oh, okay, I get what it is that you're saying. So there's a comment in the chat from Akini that I thought I should read out. It says, there's too much access to information to say you don't have any knowledge about a domain. Before you attend an interview in a domain as an analyst, you should do some research about the value chain to have an idea. When you get then when you get there, explain how you engage the relevant departments and domains. further to get results. So yes, domain knowledge is important, but it doesn't mean that because you don't have it, you cannot get it. You have time to be able to get the information that you need to help you get the job that you want. Someone said in the chat, I want to know if we have a financial analyst among the speakers. What I can tell you is that if you join RevStar Community, I guarantee you will find a financial analyst. So join RevStar. Those people there are cool, they are smart, and they are always ready to help you with whatever challenge it is that you are facing. Okay, so we are down to the very last 5 minutes.
Sorry, hi, Paul.
Hi.
Hi, Paul. Thank you for constantly plugging RevStar, but I think Sayo has a question. I don't know if you missed that or you don't want to answer.
No, maybe
So
no.
what
I
are
did.
some of the reasons that these people fail?
I'm so sorry. Okay, so let's use the last 2 minutes. Give your sound bites. Each of the speaker. We'll start with you, Kenny, since you just went last. What are some of the reasons that data people fail in your experience?
Okay, so in my experience, well, I'm yet to see one that's failed, but I think that because yeah, I can proudly say I'm yet to see anyone that's failed because data people are very strategic. But if I had to look on the other side to say, okay, what I think the soft skills are neglected. So people tend to get it into their heads, like data empowers you. I'm not gonna lie. You walk into the room with confidence, and you are speaking board level, and you have numbers to back up whatever facts you're saying. You are not just dropping an opinion; you are dropping a statement of facts. So I think a field data person would be someone who doesn't have stakeholder management skills. The communication, I don't have to emphasize on that, but to communicate is actually different from managing stakeholders. It includes emotional intelligence, it includes political intelligence. As you rise up the rank, sometimes you have to drop the data intelligence and know when to move into emotional and political intelligence. So I think when you see one that has failed, it has to be that they have not properly managed their stakeholders. So blending it with communication and strategy is largely around those three, but I cannot overemphasize on stakeholder management. In anybody's career, and not just data, you have to have stakeholders on your back. Whatever project, whatever program you are trying to deploy, if your key stakeholders are not aligned, then you have failed the project before you even started, because they will just wait for you till the end. They can be part of your UAT team, and when they test, the feedback on testing, you just drop whatever it is that you're doing. So I think stakeholder management is one key thing that I would say. Yeah.
Thank you very, very much. People in the chat are over agreeing with what it is that you're talking about. So I believe it's resonating. Yinka, do you have any thoughts on that? Why do data people fail?
Yeah, I think just thinking on what she said, yeah, people skills are very important. No shade to software engineers, but sometimes software engineers can get away with not having people skills, because you have to build the software. People will use it because they want their life to be easy. But as a data guy, we're talking about you're having to get a champion, you're having to get an advocate, you're having to sell your data to people. So if you don't have people skills, you're not going to survive, right? But another key one is, it's just like what she said. Sometimes you have confidence, but sometimes you need to temper it with some sense. And I'll just quickly give an example. I got to this company, they were using Google Sheets to do their reporting. And I remember telling myself, "Ain't no way I'm doing this." But I did it in the first month, I did it in the second month. But what I then did in the third month was I did their Google Sheets, and I did an automated Power BI one, and I gave the two to them. And then they had to then use their own hands to say, this Power BI one is nice. So and we'll be seeing it every day. We don't have to wait till the end of the month and all of that. So sometimes you have to, maybe we call it stoop to conquer. You don't just come hard and say, oh, because I'm the expert, I know what is best for you and you have to take it, right? So sometimes you have to stoop to conquer. It's also still eventually people skills. But yeah, that's just really it. But your technical knowledge is not the beginning and end of the world. Just need to know that.
Thank you. Yeah, I really like that point about those engineers. They just feel like they don't even need to be friendly. They don't need to talk. They just enter with their big headphones and just sit down and just make, and us, we're out here trying to convince people, please come and see what we're doing. It's making sense. We need more credit. They need to give us more credit. So, and last but not least, Ola.
Yes, Kende and Minka have already just summarized most of it. And yes, as a data person, you do not fail because you are the data person, because technically you have all the technical skills you need to succeed. But at the end of the day, it still boils down to your soft skills. Having to be able to be curious and identify the people who would champion for you and influence these decisions for you. Having to, especially in a situation where you're working like an Oga-Led organization where Oga's word is final. If he says it's yes, he says no, it's no. You should also know that as an employee who is dedicated to the success of whatever decisions that were made, you should be able to mitigate whatever is going to be the follow-up from that other decision that you didn't support. So from the risk assessment they talked about earlier, to also helping cushion the effect of whatever those negative effects is going to come up, like alternative plans, what can be done to salvage whatever situation is going to happen. That's that. But again, if you are going to succeed as a data person, your soft skills are so important. Your communication skills, like she said, stakeholder management is similar, but it's a bit different from communication, because the way I would talk to someone who is on the same level with me is different from how I would communicate with a stakeholder. Knowing to speak the language of different stakeholders. The person who is customer success is more concerned about the customer. Person in sales is concerned about the revenue. The person in finance is concerned about how much the company is spending and keeping budgets within a specified area. Another trick I use, especially because I worked in mostly smaller companies than big corporations, try to have the buy-in of the operations or people operations team. Let them see that you're trying to drive a data-driven company. So even when they're putting out policies, KPIs, they are going to always come to you for your inputs in, is this measurable? Can you give a small seminar or AMA session on how to manage data in my department and things like that? They would be the one who will help you champion this across the whole team. So if you want to succeed, especially if you are working at an Oga-Led organization, a small team, make sure that your operations person buys into the data-driven approach, or your people operations people also buy into the data-driven approach.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Before I forget, and before they cut my neck for forgetting, the RevStar community, this one is not a plug for RevStar, but it just so happens that it is the RevStar community. It's working with a lot of reputable organizations, from Upskill to Thrive Consulting to B4B. What we're trying to do is to understand the revenue landscape. What is the industry like? What are the skills that are in demand? How much are people getting paid? Am I getting paid more or less than I should be? What skills should I go and learn in order to increase my career opportunities? And due to that, these communities have implemented or are working on a survey, an industry report for the revenue space. And this survey is going to cover everything, almost everything that has to do with compensations and skills and market trends for revenue professionals in Nigeria. So if you are any one of these people, if you are in sales, if you are in customer service, customer success, if you are in any revenue role, the link is in the chat. Please fill in this survey. It's it's going to be very informative. And data people, pay attention to the numbers that this survey is going to push out. I would want to hear whether, do you agree? Do you want to know how did they analyze it? How did they come up with this? How did they come up with that? So if you have not yet filled this industry survey, please feel free to click on the link in there and help us understand what the revenue space is like. So we are coming to the very end of this session. What I would want to do is to give each speaker just 2 minutes to wrap up. Okay. Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, so me, I just wanted to, I'm on the comments and I feel like there's some things you just need to read. So while we're talking about soft skills, and so that people included their own soft skills that people need to know. And somebody first agreed with stakeholder management. Another person said political intelligence. And that person said you need to know office politics. I don't know if we all agree with that.
Absolutely.
And also they chat about headsets and headphones and the size and the color. Sheil also asked, how do you respectfully tell Ogas you are wrong, sir? This is what the data is saying. So maybe we can add that to our summary.
Yes. So you guys can add the headsets, you can add the political intelligence and office politics. You can add how do you tell Oga you are wrong. If we can just spend 2 to 3 minutes each just to wrap up this conversation, if there's anything that you want people to know before we leave this session, if they were to just remember one thing out of all of these discussions and adding these last few questions, they were just to retain one thing, what is it, and what advice do you have to the Ogas in the room, to the data professionals in the room, to the professional data consumers in the room? What last thing would you want to tell them? We will start with you, Ola.
Your mic is still off.
Yeah, your mic is muted.
Oh, sorry. I was already talking. So I've seen everything, understanding office politics and all the soft skills we've spoken about. Yes, there are things that are important into communicating your data to your stakeholders. And please don't go and tell, okay, you're wrong. Please don't do that. Well, depending on your relationship, but please don't go and tell your boss, actually, you're wrong. Point them in the direction of the data and making sure that you're not challenging them. It's the data trying to convince them, not you challenging their authority or their knowledge or what they know about the space you're telling them about. And again, realize that some things are beyond you. Just at the end of the day, mitigate for the worst case scenario. But God doesn't go with your decision. Just make sure you have your action plan for when things are, well, if you have another job offer, congratulations. You have plans for when those things don't go as Oga has planned for them, and then you can come up with your action plan. Say, oh, we can try this as an alternative to salvage what has been done already. Another thing I also want to put in is that I saw a comment where they said, oh, salespeople don't like data. That's very true. I'm just saying, hi, Dio. Salespeople do not like data. A lot of people don't like data. But you need to know that data is very important in every aspect of it, especially revenue operations. So listen to your data, people. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much for that. Yinka, do you want to go next?
Okay, thank you. I think, like I said, we've said a lot of things, and knowing what to tell your Oga, even when your Oga is wrong. What was that question? What to do when your guy is wrong. I think 2 things, like Candice, number one is office politics and stakeholder management, to know the language you use to tell your guy that is wrong. And it can be in different ways. It can be in form of a risk assessment that Candice spoke about. And there are times when, just like Ola said, there are times when you will not win. But what you need to do in those times is to document your stand. Not necessarily so that I can say I told you so, because some companies say I told you so, they'll still use it against you. But just document your stand by sending an email that says that the data says this and that, but I understand that sometimes decisions are made in context of other more overarching priorities. And that's why the company at this time has chosen to do this. And I'll be happy to support It's not ass licking. I promise you, I'm not a proponent of ass licking, but just documenting your stand while not being so confrontational, so that when they take the decision and it bounces, luckily it might work. If it doesn't work, you will still be able to at least remove your leg and say it's not me. I told you before. But that's just it. But again, it's all stakeholder management. You don't have to be confrontational about it, but make sure you document it. Because in some places, somebody will want to blame you for something that is not your fault. So make sure you document it, but don't be confrontational about it. Just find a way to manage things. And I think my final word is just the same thing that I've always been saying before. For data professionals, it's for all kinds of career people or human beings, especially on these calls, to just be a problem solver and always find a way to add value to people. That's it from me.
Thank you so much. And finally, Kenny.
Okay. Yeah, so thank you. There's this saying I always, well, most people tend to know me with that saying that data tells you why you should take a decision, but data analytics, as in a very well done one, tells you the right one to take. There's no way, in reality, there's no way you want to tell the man that is paying your salaries that he's wrong. There's no good way around it, and that's why I said the emotional intelligence and the political intelligence. But I think you should work towards showing the value that you're bringing on the table, how you're accelerating transformation, if it is a transformation project, if it is a sales drive. You should just tend to prove the value that you're bringing on the table. So work towards that. I think it's a transition. I don't think anyone is a robot. There's no CEO that is a robot. They tend to come out, all firm and all that, but they do listen. They might not react the way you want to, but they'll take it back. So keep to your own part, which is taking the numbers, as Ola and Yinka had said, have all your documents down. But at the end of the day, there's no good way of telling your that is wrong. You just have to find a middle ground. And I've had to do that in the course of my career a lot of times. We're ending this program. I remember in the bank when we had to reduce the rate on the savings account and the ripple effect it had on our members, our customers, and we had to go back and reverse the decisions. There's no right way of telling your guys wrong than to just tick the boxes on your own side and wait. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you to all of our speakers. You guys have brought a lot of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to this session. I told you guys at the beginning that these are titans of industries, and they have represented as such. So thank you so much for the time. Thank you for everyone that attended this session, for those that were engaging. Thank you so much for the engagement. We hope that you guys learned something, even if it is only one thing, even if it is just a little foray into the lives of data professionals. We hope that you've learned something. The conversation has already continued where? In the RevStar community. If you're not in that community, there's more story that is already ongoing inside the community right now. So make sure that you join the RevStar community. And with that, I would say one final thank you and have a wonderful rest of your weekend, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, guys. Bye.